Good morning. My name is Nancy Creerhead, and I'm the personal counselor here at the Clifton location. I'm going to be your host today, and I'm joined by fellow panelists to discuss The Girl on the Train because of their leadership on the online book club. Can you ladies please introduce yourselves?
I'll start. I'm Nicole Turnbull. I'm the Director of Student Development and Campus Life for Berkeley College Online Campus.
My name is Rosa. I'm a student at Berkeley College. I'm hoping to graduate by summer of 2016 with a bachelor's in marketing communications.
And I'm Nicole Gainey Roberson, and I'm here studying to be a patient care technician, and my graduation date is December of this year. And I love it here at Berkeley, so. Yeah.
Thank you ladies for being here. So what is it that you love about the online book club?
It's very flexible.
Yes.
It's because it's online. I guess it allows people to participate in a more productive manner because it could take just like 5 minutes and post something that can start a conversation and keep it going without having to schedule a physical, be here meeting.
It allows you to kind of communicate about the book no matter where you are. Like I could be in the bathroom and decide to, post something about it, or just talk to so many people about the book at the same time. It's amazing. Yeah.
My favorite part about it is that almost every single campus at Berkeley is participating in it. So while it's an online club, it's a Berkeley club too. So just this quarter, we had over 40 students sign up, and only 15 of those were online. So a majority of students are coming from other campuses. So I thought it was really cool that it unites all of us. What do you love about it?
Well, I love that I get to sit and talk to students kind of interactively about these books and talk to them on a different level outside of just maybe the counseling realm. So it gives me more insight to how you guys think, how you guys feel, and I feel like it bonds us and we feel more bonded as a Berkeley community.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, I'm so glad you guys are all here today. So to start a discussion, I'd love to hear your overall reactions to the book.
Well, for me, I have to say that the book was not at all, I think, what I expected it to be, because I had heard that it was going to be so much like Gone Girl. So in starting out, I had like that kind of expectation of the great suspense. Like I didn't actually read the book Gone Girl, but I had seen the movie. So I really had like this immediate thought of the kind of, I guess, character that the protagonist played in the movie. And in reading this, it was slightly different, but I liked it. I really, once I was able to get into it, it was just, I really could not put it down. The idea that she, oh my gosh, I forgot her name already, Rachel. The idea that she is literally living vicariously through so many different people's lives, as she's on the train. I don't really commute a lot. As a matter of fact, I took my first train ride by myself to go see the Today Show with Berkeley students. And I had already read the book, and while I was on the train, I swear to you, I was sitting there and I started thinking, about Rachel, and if she were on the train, what would she be thinking, right? And so I'm like looking at all these different people and like wondering, what their lives are like, and her alcoholic addiction, alcohol addiction, unfortunately spoke to me. Not that I'm an alcoholic, but it resonated with me in that she uses alcohol to kind of self-medicate. And I know that when I'm going through a lot of like turmoil in my own life, I tend to decide to, maybe have a drink and to try to relax. And in me reading this book, I started thinking like, you know what? I know subconsciously that's not a good thing. But as I read this book, I thought, I really need to like shy away from that. Like, don't do that.
That's so insightful.
Yeah, like it really, she made me actually think more intrinsically of myself and like what I am doing or not doing, for that matter. So I mean,
that was that's gonna be really hard to follow that. But it follows the fact that she lives vicariously through so many people. It shows you kind of what she thinks she's missing in her own life, and she's projecting it onto other people. She's just assuming that they had a good marriage. People that she saw on the house, Scott and Anna, the names that I guess she gave them, and that's what she was missing in her life. So she found places to project what she wanted to have but didn't have. And I find myself doing the same thing. Like, I don't commute on the train, but when I'm driving down the highway and someone speeds by me, I'm like, okay, where is it that you're going? Okay, are you late for work, or are you late to pick someone up? Do you have a medical emergency? Besides the fact that I get upset because they just made me switch lanes and they can cause an accident and potentially kill someone. But when I'm on the train, I tend to do the same thing. Like, okay, they're sitting next to me. He's asleep. Is he going to wake up in time for his stop? Or why is he sleeping? Did he work late night shifts? Or it brings a different perspective into you. And I think the way that she developed the story, just not even so much the action that's taking place, but just she used words, I think, in such a way that she didn't have to get sophisticated with these big terminology to put you in the mindset of the characters, which kind of, the simplicity of it just makes it work all that much.
Yes, absolutely.
Better.
It was funny, some of the terminology she used, because it takes place in London, I was thinking, okay, wait a minute, what is this? Right. So, and my daughter, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she loves British, terminology, words, whatever. And so as I was reading some of the language, I talked to her about it, and she was so into it. Some of it she actually did read. I didn't. Some of it I tried to keep her from. It can be some of the words in there are a little risque.
That's true.
Overall, it's a good book.
It's a good book.
It's funny you mentioned, the different terminology that they use. I actually listened to the audiobook, which is great because it was in a British accent. So that just made it that much more entertaining for me because I love British accents. But I actually read Gone Girl and saw the movie also, and I kind of got the same feeling from this book, but it definitely took a different turn than Gone Girl. And it's interesting because I listened to that on audio too, so it's almost listening to a movie in some ways. But yeah, it was really good, really suspenseful. I listened to it on my commute, which is like an hour every day, so I actually looked forward to getting in the car, which is rare for me.
Keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, no, but overall I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was a great book. I definitely have like that voyeuristic tendency in terms of I love to like people watch and give them their storylines, and so this book kind of allowed me to do that again and continue on with that.
And I know that you're not by yourself.
Yes.
Right.
And it was great because so many times I would have to stop and actually reread because I would jump ahead trying to like create this life and make the character work a certain way. And so I'd have to take a breath and go back and allow the character to develop and kind of see where they were going and not inject so much of myself into the story. And I think just getting to see the different perspectives and how people view things was really powerful. So for me, it was phenomenal read.
Great selection.
Well, so, we were just talking about this kind of like voyeuristic society and people watching. And, a lot of the story starts with the items that she sees from the train or the views from the train. Has there ever been anything on the commute that you want to like write a book about or that you've seen?
I would say, again, I really don't travel a lot, but because I had read the book and I was on the train, and I remember just kind of looking out to see if I could notice, something kind of odd or just out of place or what have you. And I remember looking out and seeing there was like this huge bag, and I hate to say it, but like I swear to you, I remember thinking, I hope there's not a body in the bag. And because of where it was, and that was the first thought that came to my mind. And then I started thinking, like, what in the world are you thinking about? And so, yeah, why not? I would love to write a book about, the possibilities of what that could have been, in the bag. So
the body in the bag.
The body in the bag. There you go.
The girl on the train.
I did see a bag once on the track, and it was the first time I had been to New York after, not to bring up really more of a topic, but after 9/11. And you know how they started this whole text messaging program, like, if you see something, report it or text it to this. And now every bag that I see unattended, part of me wants to send out an alert, but I'm like, okay, maybe someone just went to look at the screen and left the bag behind, and then I'm gonna call the cops. But that would be something interesting, Also, the bomb in the bag on the train station, or the bomb at Grand Central, or something along those natures.
Yeah.
For me, I remember when I lived in the city, there's always characters on the subway. There was a man who said he was an alien, and he would have like silly glasses and all these accessories, and he played saxophone. There's another guy that played guitar who I actually ended up bringing to Berkeley because I thought him and the girl that was singing were so amazing. And they did a really good show for us. So I always wonder, like, the people that perform in the subway or the weird characters in the subway, like, what their story is and, like, how they got to be the way they are. And if you talk to anybody in the city that was there at the same time as me, they all knew who the alien saxophone guy was. Wow. So definitely that guy has a story.
The alien saxophonist.
Yeah.
And someone listening right now will probably know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah. I have a video of him somewhere.
So mine's not as interesting, but many years ago, when I was 18, I went to France for a few weeks, and I saw this couple, I was riding the train, and they were sitting across from me, and they were sleeping on each other, and they were so beautiful and happy looking. It never left me. I actually took a picture. I know that was so creepy, but I found it the other day. And I always wondered what their life was like, what their love story, because I always pictured them having this, like, epic love story. And then now that I'm a little bit older, I could kind of see a little bit of cynicism creeping in. So I would love to write about their love story, like this couple in France, and they were probably, like, I'd give them some different ethnicity, maybe German or something, and their storyline, and I think that would be what I'd love to write about, their great love.
Great book in the making.
You just reminded me, one time I was on the subway, and it was like the benches, like the long benches, and this little old lady was sitting next to me, and at some point during the trip, she fell asleep on my shoulder, and like as the train would rock back and forth, she would fall off and then go back, and it was just the sweetest, and I just let her sleep on me. It was just the sweetest thing. So it's just interesting, the connections that you make, or you never spoke, and I think I like left her sleeping, but I'll always remember that experience.
If things linger with you that you say.
Yeah. These make great books. Yeah. Just some great projects coming up.
We're wasting your talent here.
So on our Goodreads group, right, we mentioned that the book was being turned into a film, and the roles had been cast, and so they were cast of Emily Blunt as Rachel and Justin Theroux as Tom. How do you guys feel about those choices?
I personally, I love those choices. I'm a huge fan of Emily Blunt, and I think she would bring. We were talking about the British accent. She naturally has an accent. So
she's a natural,
right? Just an absolute natural. She's actually very funny. I watch her. I saw an interview with her on the Graham Norton show. I don't know if you and it's only online or whatever that you can see the show, but she's hilarious, and I don't know, I couldn't pick a better person. James Theroux, I know of him, and whether he would be great in the role, I don't know, but I was thinking more on the lines of Tom Hiddleston.
Interesting.
It might be a better selection, actually.
So, and my loves Tom Hiddleston, so she agreed.
So we have some casting directors here too. Then.
I have a tendency of just doing that. Every book that I pick up and read, I start picturing like
Right.
the actors actually like, all right, if this was a movie, who am I picturing to portray this action? And Emily Blunt was actually the first person that came to mind. And for some reason, I also thought about Kate Winslet.
Oh, yeah, I was
yes.
just thinking that.
I don't know if it's the accent or just the way that I've seen her in all her other movies and just how they adjust so well to the different characters. Like she was a love-stricken, teenager on the ship, and then all of a sudden she's a married housewife who, was pregnant and then, got rid of the baby at some point. And the book is just, she would just be great. And then for the guy role, I'm leaning a lot for some reason towards Charlie Hunnam. I don't know if it's because I saw him when he did Sons of Anarchy and the way that he made the character so flexible to transition into being someone that's emotional and then being someone that's, tough and rugged and just, someone that can adjust really well
I really like that
with what's
suggestion.
happening
Yeah, he would be a good fit
in the
for that.
scenery. He should. I'm going to see if I can send out an email or something.
Yeah, I like Emily Blunt as Rachel. Although I feel like the way they described her in the book, like she wasn't necessarily conventionally attractive. And then I don't know if this is Anna being mean, calling her fat and ugly, poor fat Rachel and stuff like that. And then you bring in someone gorgeous, like beautiful celebrity, Emily Blunt. But perhaps that was just Anna's perception of her, so we don't really know. But it's just interesting. Like I would expect someone a little plainer, maybe like more frumpy.
I just thought about something.
Yeah.
The girl who played 50 Shades of Grey.
Dakota Johnson.
Yeah. Why did she just popped in my head?
See, I was thinking Renee Zellweger from. Do you remember when she was kind of what series was that? Was it
Bridget Jones?
Yeah,
Bridget Jones era Renee Zellweger.
She kind of has. She could kind of have that range. I could see her visually kind of falling apart, doubting herself, kind of darkening up her hair and having that sentiment. I could kind of see her. I'm also aging myself a little bit for that, but I could see her playing that role very well.
Yeah.
I think the Dakota maybe came to your mind because of the way that she just did the 50 Shades in her vulnerability, so to speak, how she can be easily beaten down. Essentially, Rachel was like a beaten down person.
Absolutely.
But that would be, we should definitely cast this movie.
Get on that IMDb discussion board.
Well, and actually bringing back kind of, you made me think Sons of Anarchy, right? I don't know if anyone else has seen it. It's a very violent show.
Yes.
So kind of tying that in, there's these very visceral, graphic descriptions of violence and situations in this book. There's partner violence, child endangerment, alcoholic behavior, and murder. And so I wanted to know, how did you guys respond, reading this? Like, did you feel uncomfortable? Did you think it was necessary? Do you think it benefited the story being graphic at times? Like, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was absolutely necessary. I thought that it gave a lot more depth to the book and made it quite relatable. These are all things that, for me, I know I've experienced a lot of that. And I think a lot of our readers, a lot of the people who have read the book have probably experienced it, so I can't see someone reading it and thinking, that it was something that didn't need to be there, I think had it not been there, it would not have been such a great book. So, how do you feel
I
about
definitely agree with you. I think without certain scenes, it wouldn't be the same. Because it gives you the setting to lead to the emotional feelings of the character. Like, you can't just say, she was abused by her husband without actually giving some sort of scenario or example to bring you to like a mental state of, okay, it wasn't just something he said, it was, this is what happened, this is what he did to her, but this is why it beat her, the way that it did. But I don't really have a problem with watching violence or certain scenarios, because unfortunately it's just the society that we live in, and sometimes seeing it in a movie or seeing it in writing, it gives a victim, quote unquote, that theory that, okay, I'm not alone, and it might be that push that the person needs to, okay, I'm not alone. There's someone there that's going to help me. Let me seek the help.
That's a great point.
That I'm looking to get. Because, from personal experience, when you're dealing with something, you always feel like I'm alone. There's no one that can help me. And then if you pick something up and you start reading it, and it's pretty much like your life story on a piece of paper that someone else, whether it's a book of fiction or it's, nonfiction, it's like, okay, it's not just me.
Right.
Where do I go from here? And it gives you that push sometimes that's needed. Instead of you, self-medicating or,
exactly.
Like she tried to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, some of it was really hard to listen to, especially with little Evie and Tom holding her at the end and not knowing if he was going to harm her, and just, being a mom and feeling like how Anna was feeling of like, just, I need to feed the baby, or the baby needs a diaper change, just having that feeling of like, if that was me in that situation, I would be so terrified and so scared. So as much as it was hard for me to listen to, it definitely made me empathize with the characters more, especially Anna, because most of the book I didn't like Anna. I thought she was kind of a jerk.
That very late.
Yeah.
Wrapping.
So it kind of humanized her a little bit for me. And the fact that her and Rachel kind of, it kind of unified those two finally at that critical moment to do what they needed to do. So.
And you know what else I thought about too? The characters, I think it gave so much depth to the understanding about the different facets of women. And that, we can be, I hate to say it, but very callous and, manipulative and cunning, and, whereas a man, they have a different kind of relationship. Men can just
compartmentalize a little bit better.
Exactly.
They can shift easier from one to the other. Whereas we'll just take it on.
Yes.
At once.
Yes, absolutely.
And in this case, the book shows you everything kind of both ways. Like how a woman can sort of manipulate others, but also how someone can have the power of getting into a woman's brain and kind of
and then tearing them down
to the point that we see what happens with the storyline.
Yeah, and Tom was a very manipulative person too, I thought, like in terms of like, instead of dealing with things head on, he would just convince people that they were crazy and they were the problem, So it was just interesting to see that.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's great. So we're now nearing the end of our program. Sorry. Does anyone want to share some thoughts? Some final thoughts about the book?
I think it was great. And I'm kind of fearful in a way about it becoming a movie. I find that sometimes when something's put on script or put in front of media, it changes the context of it.
Right.
And they only show you what they want you to see or what's going to
Their
sell.
perspective.
Usually. Like they did that recently, and I was really upset with it, but not to bring up, something off topic. But when they converted the 50 Shades of Grey movie into film, it lost a lot of its content in the translation. Just because, of course, there are scenes in it that you can't really show on a big screen, but in not showing them, we're losing context of why the main characters are the way they are. And with this, I'm really fearful, as much a good an actress as anybody can be for a book, I think there are scenes that they're going to have to eliminate, and you're going to lose that psychological background of why the characters became a certain way that led to the events.
And I just wonder too, because I know for me, when I read a book, right, I create my fantasy world. So there's kind of base structure.
Yes.
There's a landscape that's provided for me, but then I create my house. I create this story. Is it that when you see it sometimes in the film, the way you've interpreted it is different? Because if Nicole and I created the same film, or it might be so different because what resonates for us is so different.
Exactly.
So do you think that may be part of what is the fear? Is that what is most important to us in a book differentiates from person to person?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because as much as you can write something, it's not, I think, as censored as what you can show on the screen.
And also, I think Gone Girl is a good example because I love the book. Like, it was so, I did not know until the very end what was happening, and I won't spoil it for anybody that hasn't read or seen the movie. But when you see the movie, when they finally reveal the truth, it doesn't feel as satisfying. And it's not even that I knew it already. It was just like, it was going really, really slow. You didn't know what was happening. Then boom, everything kind of unravels.
At once.
And it just wasn't a natural.
There's no anticipation building.
Yeah, like the book did it really well, and the movie it just kind of flopped for me. So it's just gonna be interesting, a suspenseful kind of M. Night Shyamalan twist of a book.
Right.
You know,
That's
how do you do that in a
true.
film without giving it up too soon or not presenting it the right way? So it's very, very.
They tend to
interesting.
do that. They really do when they turn books into movies. I mean, of course, you can't really put this whole, book into, an hour and a half or 2 hours, whatever the case may be. But it's just, that's my biggest fear, that they're going to make something so good and it's going to lose some of its oomph, when it goes to the big screen.
Any other thoughts? Oh, sorry.
So do you guys prefer to read the book before you see the movie usually, or watch the movie and then read the book? Like, what's your preference?
Honestly, my preference is to not read the book. And, because like we all just said, when you read the book first and then you watch the movie, you really, inevitably there's such disappointment. So I would generally
do it the opposite.
Exactly. Want to, look at the movie and then read the book.
Interesting.
I would do the same thing because I guess once you see the movie, my thought is, okay, where did this come from? I have to pick up this brainchild of somebody's brain and just read it. Like I saw 50 Shades before I actually picked up the book and read it, and I was like, okay, I saw the movie. I'm like, no, something's missing. That was my instinct. I'm like, something is missing. I didn't speak to anyone that read it.
Interesting.
And I'm like, something's got to be missing here. The movie didn't tell you why he is the way he is. So I picked up the book, and I'm like, all right, I understand it. And I also see why they couldn't put this in the movie because it's not really that way. And I think with this, I should have waited till the movie came out first, and then I should have read the book. But I like that I read it though, because now I could just sit there and criticize.
Exactly.
And just go, oh, you guys missed like a whole 50 chapters. Like, what is this? Come on.
That's good.
I think for me, one of the things that I really enjoyed about this book is just reminding myself that we don't know the storyline behind others. And, as Rachel sat on the train and kind of created this fantasy world for these characters, I think we often do that in our own lives. We look at other people and just assume that they live a certain type of lifestyle. I know I'm always blown away by students that come in and have these stories or experiences, both good and bad, and I'm forever surprised and shocked. And I think that, another thing that this story brought to light for me is the struggles that people have, and that we should all be supportive and try to understand each other and always offer help, because you don't know, you really do not know what the person next to you is dealing with.
Because appearances come on.
Absolutely.
There's this old saying, because my parents were Portuguese, there's always like a saying that behind closed doors, no one really knows what happens. Because you can easily act a certain way to not let people know, or to not be vulnerable in front of others, and then something else completely different can happen behind closed doors.
I agree.
All right, well, this concludes our live discussion of The Girl on the Train. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can find the online book club on goodreads.com, and be sure to join us if you haven't already. You can also find Berkeley College on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please be sure to hashtag Berkeley College so we can keep the conversation going. Join us again next quarter as we read and discuss the written word. Have a great day.
Yeah.